I can't believe you said that.
The message popped up on my screen. Sure, it was a risky message to send in the first place, but fortune favors the brave, I thought to myself.
You know it made you smile. Go on, deny it.
I hit send and wait.
Shame you can't do that for real.
A smile creeps across my face as my time spent messaging Skillet Fan 94 was finally paying off.
Who says I can't? We've been talking for months now. It's insane we only live 2 hours apart and haven't met in person yet. I mean, it's not like you're actually some 40-year-old guy, is it? Is it?
I know how to wind her up with relative ease now. The message was meant as a joke, but also pressed on the idea of us meeting.
Okay, let's do it. Let's meet.
Despite the message being digital, I could still sense her hesitation through it. Throughout the course of the night, I continued to reinforce the idea that I wasn't some crazed serial killer. I just really wanted to see the woman I'd connected with so well within the comment section of some stupid, mundane Facebook group. It was almost 3 a.m. when we had finally ironed out all the details of us meeting that weekend, only 3 days away. We called it a night, promising to continue in the morning. Morning came, and, as promised, we hashed out the last of the details, as well as who to look for when we finally met at the train station. Although we had exchanged photos, the idea of someone turning up who looked nothing like their pictures had crossed both of our minds, and we had made that very clear. The day had finally come. I sat nervously in my car, within view of the station's platform, waiting for her to step off. The 2:45 to Reading eastbound had been running right on time. As the train pulled into the station, I edged forward in my seat. She was so beautiful in her pictures. Long blonde hair, not natural, but still suited her perfectly. Electric blue eyes that could stop a man in his tracks. Long, slender legs that I had many a time dreamt about, wrapped around my waist in intimate throes of passion. Right then, the passengers had begun to exit the carriages. As the last carriage emptied, and my suspicions of her standing me up were nearly confirmed, she stepped into my view. Instantly, I could see that she was not as tall as she told me she was, but I didn't mind. I liked them smaller. And her hair, it was more of a mousy blonde now, not exactly platinum, but I could look past that. Maybe she just needed to re-dye it or something. In fact, as she walked off the end of the platform, along the path and past my car, I could see that her eyes were almost a dull gray. Not so much the electric blue I was led on to believe. All in all, she still looked amazing, and I had to have her. I waited until she was past the back of my car before opening the door. In one sweeping motion, I wrapped my arm around the side of her head, nestling her mouth and nose in the handkerchief I already had in my hand, soaked in a potent yet sweet-smelling liquid. As her body went limp, I opened the rear passenger door and gently placed her onto the seat. After assessing my surroundings, I got back into the driver's seat and made my way to the little cottage we had booked a few nights before on one of those last-minute websites. After a while, she hazily regained consciousness, shackled to a chair in an empty room. The pleasant wallpaper and indents in the carpet betraying the memory of where furniture used to be, only adding to the panic-infused hysteria setting in. She wanted to scream. She wanted to move. She wanted to be anywhere but here. The rolled-up fabric rammed halfway down her throat ensured she would never scream. and the cold steel handcuffs already digging into her wrists ensured she would never move. As the door opened, she saw me standing there for the first time, wearing nothing but the blood and sweat from God only knows what. I ensured she would never be anywhere but here again. A few hours later, I emerged from the little cottage, freshly dressed and ready to set off home. As I got into my car, I smiled, looking back at the cottage one last time. I'm going to have such fond memories of our time spent there. The things I did. All the promises I held up on my end. The crying, the muffled screams, the begging through tears and a broken jaw. Admittedly, I might have taken things a little too far toward the end. No one should have to suffer how she did in those final hours, but I was just so excited, and, well, it was our first date. All I wanted to do was impress you. I left you there in that room, and used your card to buy another few nights at the cottage. You deserved the uninterrupted rest. As I got home and settled down in the living room, I fired up my laptop and signed into Facebook. I guess these sort of things don't ever last long. Short little flings, but oh well. It was fun while it lasted. Scrolling through Facebook, I began to look for the right kind of comment. Someone to strike up a conversation with. Someone unattached and engaging.
Where were you?
A message popped up on the screen. My blood instantly runs cold for a moment.
What do you mean?
I typed back. Surely it couldn't be.
I was late getting to the train station, so I had to catch a later train. Then my phone died, so after waiting over an hour only to realize you weren't showing up, I headed home.
This had to be a joke, surely, I thought. Nevertheless, a smile crept across my face. Maybe today wasn't our first date after all. Maybe today was just a test run.
I'm so sorry. Can we reschedule? I'll make it up to you. I promise.